Okay, good morning. So the spirit this morning woke me up and I just had to write out these words. So today's Wednesday, the 30th of August, and what's happening right now is there's a tropical storm, Idalia, and it's intensifying as a category 3. And it's about to make huge landfall in the Florida panhandle. They say this hasn't happened since the 1800s. But I just want to go back to a little history. So 4 days ago, a white man killed three black people in a racially motivated crime in Jacksonville, Florida. He was a 21-year-old white male. He fired shots, 11 shots, through the vehicle, killing the lady. He went into the store. He shot two more people, killing them. He shot other people, but he missed. So this young man, he was involuntarily committed and had a mental exam, but he was able to legally purchase a gun, right? Then they said after 11 minutes after he shot the people, he told his father to go search his room. He had a suicide note, a will, and racist writing on a paper addressed to the family, law enforcement, and media. So this was premeditated. Okay, this gentleman, his comments, he's one of the pastors in he's a senior pastor in Jacksonville. He says nobody is having honest, candid conversation about the presence of racism. The divide exists because of the ongoing disenfranchisement of black people. And the governor, who is really propelling himself forward through bigoted, racially motivated, misogynistic, xenophobic actions to throw red meat to a Republican base. Rudolph McKesson. So this is happening in the wake of Jacksonville. There was a shooting. It's called the city's famous Axe Handle Saturday. What happened was 63 years ago, 200 Ku Klux Klan members attacked black protesters who were conducting peaceful sit-ins in the Jim Crow against the Jim Crow laws. Then what happened was the police were just watching until the Black Street Gang arrived to fight the Ku Klux Men. And then what happened was only the black people were arrested. And all of this is on the wake of the Alabama brawl that happened less than a month ago, where the black people jumped in to help with the security guard. Anyway, so this is what God told me. He said, Casey, you have to speak up. So I woke up this morning and Proverbs 23:11, that's been on my radar, where it says, their defender or redeemer is strong. He will take up their cause against you. Psalms 10:12-14 talks about when the victim is crushed by the wicked turn away his face because he said, God never notices. Then God is asking, why has the wicked one disrespected God? He says in his heart, you will not hold me accountable. But you do see distress. You look on and take matters in hand. To you, the unfortunate victims turn. You are the helper to the orphan. Then he took me to Judges 6:11-16, where Jehovah's angel appears to Gideon. Gideon is hiding from the Midianites who are beating out the wheat in the winepress. The angel tells Gideon, God is with you, you mighty warrior. Now Gideon, he turns to God and he say, but wait a minute. God is with me. Where's all the acts of salvation that he did in the past? Didn't God bring these people against us in the first place? Gideon says God has deserted us. And then he wanted to know how he could be the one to save Israel because he's part of the most insignificant. And then God says, I will be with you. Now something really happens Fast forward, Gideon goes in the middle of the night and he destroys the fake altar, Baal. The fake altar is called, because they wanted to kill him. But one of the prophets say, well, if this is really God's altar or Baal's altar, the false god, he said, let's name Gideon Jerubbaal, which means let Baal defend himself, or let Baal make a legal defense or contend. So basically, Jeru, right? This this statement, Jeru, it has a connotation of seeing to it, right? And we're gonna get back to that in a little bit. But basically, what they're saying is if Baal really is God and Gideon destroyed his altar, let Baal deal with Gideon, right? Because he is a God, right? So this whole thing is about Godship. Jeru, right, might sound familiar because Jeru is part of the word Jerusalem, which gets really interesting. So Jerusalem, right, it comes from this part of this word. So when Gideon built the altar, right, before he destroyed their altar, he built an altar where he met the angel. And the altar where he met the angel, he called it Jehovah Shalom, which means Jehovah is peace. The word Jerusalem means, right? We hear this word Jerusalem, or it's also called Zion. It comes from the word, that's Jeru comes from the word Ire. And the Ire is it's the same word that Abraham used when he was had to offer up the ram instead of his son. And I know this really well because that's my son's name, Jireh, right? And it really means he will see to it, right? So if you break this word down, you get Jeru and Salem. Salem means the place of peace. It was the city with Melchizedek, who was the king of Salem or the king of peace, right? So when you put Jerusalem together, it says, he will see to it a place of peace. Or he will see to it that peace is done, right? Okay, let's keep on going. This gets really interesting. So then he took me to Exodus chapter 22, verse 22, where he says, I will oppose those who oppose you. He's talking to his people, the Israelites. And then he took me to Jeremiah 34, 8 to 22, where it says, all the princes obeyed, right? This was, and I was like, okay, this is really weird. Because what happened was, let me tell you what had happened. In Jeremiah, if you read what happened, God told the princes to free their fellow brothers who were slaves. And they went ahead and they obeyed and they freed their brothers who were slaves. But then later on, they brought them back, male and female slaves. They made them slaves again. And it says they freed them and then again forced them back into slavery, right? And this is what God said. This was his reply. He said, you turned around and you profaned my name. So now he has to take action. Then he took me to Deuteronomy 11:25, where he says, nobody will stand up to you. Jehovah your God will spread the dread of the fear of you over the whole land on which you walk as promised, right? So he's telling me, he's showing me himself, right? So then he takes me to Job and he's telling me how he's gonna do this, how he's gonna put the dread. And in Job 28:23, he says, God understands the ways to find it, wisdom, right? The whole of Job 28 is talking about how to find the secrets of wisdom. And it says, he, meaning God, alone knows where it resides, right? He sees everything under the heavens. He sets the force of winds. He measured out the waters. He made a regulation for the rain and a path for the thunderous storm clouds. So, what he told me is that we need to be paying attention, because what's happening here is a fierce war for sovereignty. Sovereignty meaning who has the right or the authority to rule, who sets the standards, who or what determines what is right, what is bad in your eyes, right? And what does he mean by what is bad in your eyes? Well, in verse 27 and 28, he said that he saw what wisdom was, he explained wisdom, he tested it, and he's given us the results, right? So this is like a scientific process, right? Because it's well tested, evidence based. He says this is what wisdom is: fear of Jehovah. That is wisdom. Fear of Jehovah. Turn away from bad is understanding. So what he told me is that as a human population, we are not walking in wisdom. Why? Well, he told me we fear displeasure of the crowds, we fear dying, we fear sounding and looking crazy, we fear making waves among our whoever we are associated with. You know, as they say, don't make waves, right? We fear public opinion. We fear displeasing others. We fear making other people uncomfortable. We fear dying. I think I put that there twice because it's real. We fear having an unpopular message or an unpopular method like I'm doing here. But he told me, Casey, all of this is stupid. He said this is stupidity, because the only thing that matters is the fear of Jehovah. And he said he's the one who sets the standard as to what is bad. He says what is good, what is bad, right? So what he told me is when things happen and we make it into a big deal, right? And when things happen and it should be a big deal, but we don't make it into a big deal, it's usually because we're hanging out here, right? We fear all of this. He said, but that is not wise. And I need humanity to pay attention to this war because I have the right to rule. And I'm telling you that you guys need to be here. You need to fear Jehovah. And when you don't fear Jehovah, and when things are casual to you, when things are not, when you hear of things and you say, well, I'll let the authorities handle this, or I have no say, or I have no thoughts, or we just go about our life, and I'm guilty of this. We just go about our life like this is not our fight. And we know that it is blatant injustice, right? We know that this action brings where God says, I am the defender. I'm going to take it up. I do not like this. This is wicked. This is wicked when you disrespect God, right? And you say, you do things that you think nobody sees. They're unfortunate. Who's going to talk? Who's going to be a helper? And you know this, and you turn your eye thinking somebody else is going to do something, somebody else is going to speak, somebody else is going to handle these matters. And you again, hanging out here in fear. You don't want anybody to be, you want to be politically correct. You don't want to make any waves. You don't want to get political. You don't want to have a say, but you know exactly what is happening. Father God says that is not wisdom. He said the only wisdom is when you see something happens and you start praying fervently because you know that God is going to take it up. You know what the consequences are going to be. And you start praying for people. You start praying for the nation. You start praying in behalf of your enemies because you know that they are coming in to the hands of the living God. and you are afraid of his reaction. And you speak up and you speak out despite all of your personal stupid fears. Thank you for listening.